Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I'm here to share my unbelievable journey of battling an unscrupulous homeowners association's president who went to great lengths to harass me and extract money through deceitful means. My neighborhood's homeowners associations was optional, and initially, I decided against joining to avoid potential complications. Little did I know how much power the homeowners association's president wielded, and it soon became evident that she held a personal grudge against me. Living just a couple of blocks away, our paths rarely crossed, but the havoc she wreaked on my life was undeniable. The trouble started when I began receiving fines in the mail from the homeowners associations, citing alleged violations of bylaws I had never even heard of, let alone understood, complaints about my trash cans being too far out into the street and mowing my lawn on Sunday mornings, my only day off, filled my mailbox. Though not a member of the homeowners associations, I naively assumed these rules applied to all homeowners, and thus I paid the fines, considering them a fair exchange to maintain peace. However, everything changed dramatically one fateful day when I walked out of my house and saw my car being towed. It's important to note that I consistently parked my car in my own driveway every night. There was no justification for towing my car, which they claimed was an illegal parking violation. Fueled by a mix of frustration and indignation, I confronted the Homeowners Association's president at her house, determined to give her a piece of my mind. With a smug expression on her face, she greeted me at the door, well aware of why I had sought her out. I wasted no time expressing my outrage. My car is being towed from my own driveway. Homeowners Associations. President. Well, it was sticking out into the street, violating the bylaws. I called the Homeowners Association's designated tow company to take care of it. My car wasn't in the street, it was fully parked in my driveway, and you had it towed. Homeowners Associations. President, if you continue with this confrontational tone, I will report you for harassment and you'll face more than just fines and a tow. I walked away, realizing the futility of arguing further, and retreated to my house to strategize. Extensive research into our specific homeowners associations revealed that not only were there no regulations about cars sticking out of driveways, but I also discovered that the president had no authority to fine me since I hadn't joined the homeowners associations. This newfound knowledge sparked a sense of rebellion within me. In an act of personal revenge, I decided to flout the bylaws, intentionally engaging in activities that directly contradicted the homeowners association's president's rules. The fines began piling up, and I collected them like trophies, reminding myself of the injustice I had endured. However, amidst this ongoing battle, I received an unexpected notice. The homeowners association's president was suing me. Fortunately, my brother, a skilled lawyer, found the absurdity of her case amusing. While I won't divulge our exact strategy, let's just say the courtroom became the stage for an unforgettable showdown. As we entered the courtroom, the Homeowners Association's president wore her typical smug grin, unaware of the impending turn of events. I, on the other hand, had my own confident smile ready to face her. With bated breath, we listened as she presented her case, showcasing photographs and alleged copies of documents sent to me as evidence of my violations and unpaid fines. The judge seemed perplexed, awaiting my response. Judge, Mr. Me, do you deny being given fines for any of these violations? With a smile on my face, I confidently replied, No, Your Honor. I did commit every single one of those violations. The Homeowners Association's president beamed, believing she had me cornered. The judge, however, appeared puzzled. Judge, then can you explain why you are refusing to pay the fines that were imposed by the homeowners associations? I assume you have a valid reason since you are countersuing. Maintaining eye contact with the judge, I sensed the homeowners association's president's growing unease. Yes, Your Honor. The reason I refuse to pay those fines is that I am not a member of the neighborhood homeowners associations. Homeowners association's president. But I have his signed documents right here. She eagerly handed the judge a set of papers with a copy provided to my brother and me. Suppressing my laughter, I watched as the judge reviewed the documents. Judge, you claim that he isn't part of the homeowners associations, yet you present signed papers as evidence. My brother, seizing the opportunity, interjected. Your Honor, those documents are clearly forged, containing a misspelling of my client's name. We can provide you with irrefutable proof of his actual signature. This forgery is a serious crime and we request an investigation." The judge's gaze shifted from the documents to the Homeowners Association's president, his face displaying a mixture of anger and disappointment. Her smile wavered as the realization of her imminent defeat washed over her. "Judge, if Mr. Me is not a member of the Homeowners Associations, then you have no grounds to impose fines or sue him for any money. He never consented to those terms, and I will indeed investigate the potential forgery which carries legal consequences. As for the present case, we shall proceed with the defendant's counterclaim for past fines paid, legal fees, and the illegal vehicle towing." Desperate to salvage her position, the Homeowners Association's president interjected, "Wait, he can't sue me for those things. I was merely following the rules." "Judge, rules that did not apply to him at the time. Mr. Me, you may proceed with your account of the illegal towing incident." I recounted the events, emphasizing how my car had been parked entirely within my driveway, and the Homeowners Association's president eagerly interrupted, attempting to defend her actions. Homeowners Associations. President. The car was sticking out into the street, posing a severe safety hazard. I had no choice but to have it towed to prevent potential accidents. Judge, Mr. Me, do you possess any evidence proving that your car was indeed within your driveway and not obstructing the road? With a triumphant smile, I confidently replied, "Actually, Your Honor, I do." This time, as I turned to face the courtroom, I relished the shock that enveloped the Homeowners Association's president's face. Unbeknownst to her, I had installed security cameras when I moved in, meticulously capturing every moment. The judge's curiosity piqued. He eagerly awaited the revelation of this crucial evidence. I presented the footage to the judge, revealing how my car had been neatly parked in my driveway when it was unlawfully towed. The undeniable proof played on the courtroom screens, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind about the Homeowners Association's president's deceitful actions. The judge, his patience exhausted, ruled decisively in my favor. Although he couldn't recover the money I had previously paid in fines, he granted my request for legal fees. Furthermore, he sternly warned the Homeowners Association's president that any further harassment would result in a restraining order. Defeated and silenced, the Homeowners Association's president had no choice but to sit quietly, unable to retaliate as I reclaimed my freedom to manage my property as I saw fit. While the issue of the forged documents remained unresolved due to insufficient evidence, the satisfaction of exposing her actions in court was immeasurable. Her aspirations of continuing as the Homeowners Association's president were undoubtedly shattered. Word of the court's ruling spread throughout the neighborhood, igniting a sense of unity and a collective desire for change. An election for a new Homeowners Association's president was announced, giving the community an opportunity to choose a leader who would prioritize fairness, transparency, and respect for each homeowner's rights. As the election date approached, support for my cause surged. Many neighbors, having witnessed the injustice I had endured, rallied behind me. They shared their own stories of mistreatment, arbitrary fines, and abuse of power by the previous Homeowners Association's president. Together, we formed a coalition dedicated to advocating for homeowners' rights and ensuring the new leader would be accountable to the community. Election day arrived, and a fresh sense of hope permeated the air. The community turned out in droves, casting their votes for a candidate who had demonstrated a genuine commitment to upholding homeowners' rights and fostering a harmonious neighborhood. The results were announced, and to no one's surprise, the previous Homeowners Association's president was resoundingly defeated. A new era had begun, one marked by transparency, fairness, and a sense of unity among neighbors. With the election behind us, I continued to enjoy my home without unwarranted fines or harassment. The memories of that courtroom victory remained etched in my mind, reminding me of the power of resilience and standing up against injustice. I hoped that my triumph would serve as a precedent, inspiring others to challenge abuses of power and fight for their rights. As for the former Homeowners Association's president, she retreated into obscurity, her reputation forever tarnished. Her attempts to manipulate and control the lives of homeowners had been exposed, and she was left to ponder the consequences of her actions. The neighborhood, now united under new leadership, flourished with a renewed sense of community spirit and shared responsibility. The next one is a pro-revenge story. Our 40-something neighbor, Frank Smith, has a brother 3 years older named Fred, with the two being similar in looks and build. Apparently, these boys were not obedient children and got into trouble a lot. Frank mostly straightened up by the time he reached 21, but Fred kept at it, with drinking, drugs, multiple DUIs, etc. While the two were still living at home with their parents in their early 20s, Frank happened to leave his wallet on the kitchen counter one night after coming home from a night out. The next morning, he discovered his ID wasn't in his wallet. Thinking he must have left it at a bar the night before, he tried locating it, but with no luck. Not thinking much about it, he just got a new ID. Fast forward a year or so, and Frank gets a phone call. It's his uncle, whose son works at the county jail. Fred had been arrested, and their cousin happened to see him when he was getting booked, under the name Frank Smith. Turns out Fred had given the police Frank's name and ID and was going to jail under Frank's identity. Needless to say, Frank was pissed. He went down to the jail to prove he was Frank, and Fred was a liar. Fred was ultimately sentenced to serve time and stayed put. During the time that Fred was in jail, Frank received a letter in the mail from the state BMV. It said that his two vehicles, an Audi sedan and a VW Bug, were due for e-checks, emission checks. Frank was confused because he only owned a truck. He went to the BMV and discovered that these two vehicles were indeed titled in his name. That's when Frank realized that his brother, who had lost the right to own a vehicle due to excessive DUIs, used his identity to register these cars. The revenge. Frank asked how much it cost to get duplicates of the titles, $8 each. So he paid $16 and walked away with title documents for the two cars. He knew enough of his brother's friends to start calling around in search of the cars. Lo and behold, he located them both at different locations. Frank is a knowledgeable mechanic and could start these cars without keys, but he knocked on the door of each house where the cars were. He explained to each person that he owned the title to the car, showing them the document, and gave them the opportunity to remove their belongings from the vehicle before he took it. They understood and didn't push back, taking their things out of the car and handing him the keys. Frank proceeded to sell both cars and pocket around $3,000 for all his troubles. The good news is that after his stint in jail, Fred got sober and became someone Frank could actually be friends with. The next one is a petty revenge story. Some backstory. Straight out of college, I joined a professional services firm on a training contract, which meant they paid for my education while I worked towards a professional qualification. In turn, I worked for essentially minimum wage for 3 years. If I quit within this time, I had to pay them back for the cost, which was a lot of money for someone straight out of college. This firm placed me in a department that worked for banks' lenders to repossess homes. I mention this because I want to be clear that I knew I was doing the devil's work, but I couldn't really quit. On to the revenge part. There was this elderly couple who missed about 3 payments on their mortgage, and our client instructed me to issue them a notice of repossession. After I did as told, the couple tried to negotiate, and they made a really good offer to outright pay off the mortgage. I'm guessing they had family who wanted to help and gave them some money to do that. I recommended it to my client to accept it, but was told to turn it down. They thought they could make more money off it by putting it on the market. This couple was devastated, and I felt just awful about it. But there was nothing I could do. Anyway, time went on and the couple moved out. We got the keys and started readying the house for sale. As the weeks/months went on, people viewing the house were complaining about a smell, and no one wanted to bid on it. When I went to the house myself, I literally wanted to vomit as soon as I got in the door. I had never smelled a rotting corpse before, but I imagine it would be quite similar. We got professional cleaners to come in, plumbers to check the sewage, but no one could make the smell go away. We had to take the house off the market. Months went by, and the house was just lying idle. Eventually, our clients asked us to contact the couple to see if they would make the same offer they did in the beginning. They said no, and offered about 50% of the original offer. At this point, it was costing our client money to keep the house, between our fees and the cost of upkeep, so they reluctantly agreed, and the couple got their house back. Fast forward a few weeks, and the professional cleaners we had previously used on the house gave me a call. Turns out the couple had hired them too after they got the house back to do some cleaning. Well, let me tell you, I have nothing but admiration for this genius couple. Apparently the curtain poles in all the rooms were hollow. They hid dead fish in all of them before moving out, and no one thought to check. Can you imagine the smell after months of rotting in the summer heat? This happened about 10 years ago, and I still think about this couple as my heroes. The next one is an entitled people story. The current heat wave reminded me of a massive blowout at a previous job back in 2017. I returned to work after a period of sickness. I came into the office to find that the lights were off and the air conditioning was off too. Now in the UK, air conditioning is still not standard. And being in an office where the sun hits you most of the day, it was bliss to have it on. We had filters on our windows to stop people from looking in and seeing our computer screens, but they did not stop the heat from coming through. The office was like an oven. My little desk fan did nothing, and having the lights off meant that I could barely see my screen, let alone my desk. I raised this with my manager, who was the office health and safety representative, and was told that 2 of the 20 people in the office didn't like the lights on because it made them feel hotter, so they turned all the lights off. I asked them then, if they felt hot, why turn off the air conditioning? And the answer? Because they didn't like the air blowing on them where they sat. The temperature in the office was hitting 26 degrees C/78 degree F, and the light levels were like trying to work at dusk. I told my boss that I could not work under these conditions because they were triggering the condition that I had been off with, and was told to go work in another office. I then tried to bring it up with the 2 people who caused this by asking why they had chosen to turn off the air conditioning and the lights, and was told that they felt too hot with the lights on and the air conditioning blew directly on them, which was too annoying. Now the lighting was ultra-low emission lighting, so it gave out no heat. And when I said this, I was told that it didn't matter because it was how they felt, and if you have a problem with that, then go work somewhere else. I put my concerns in writing to my boss and got an email back telling me to go find another office to work in, but before I could move, he would have to approve it. Now I was on the company H&S team, which sat over the office representatives, that is, my boss, and at the next meeting I brought up that I understood that there were no minimum or maximum heat requirements for an office. But what were we to do if it was hitting 26 degrees C, but the air conditioning was off? I was told by our CFO to turn on the air conditioning. I explained that 2 out of 20 people didn't want it. The CFO scribbled down something and said he'd look into it. I then brought up minimum light levels, for which there is legislation, and how we were falling below those. Hubby had lent me a light meter to check, which I did one lunchtime when most of the team were out. The CFO asked why it was so dark, and I said that the same 2 people insisted on all the lights being off because it felt hotter with them on. Again, frantic scribbling. I was off the next day, and then it was the weekend. I came in on Monday to the air conditioning on, the lights on, and the 2 moaners glaring at me. Then my boss called me into a meeting and told me that he got shouted at by his boss, Big Boss, because the CFO had come to him and torn him a new one over the lights and air conditioning. It seems the CFO had come into the office on Friday when the managers and his boss had all gone out for lunch together. With the 2 moaners, you can now see how they had influence, and talked with the rest of the office about the conditions, and they had all said that it was awful. He then waited for the bosses to come back, sitting in the Big Boss's office, which turns out they had a long lunch. He proceeded to get into him about breaking H&S regulations over the lighting, and that if 2 out of 20 didn't like the office, then they had to move, not inflict this situation on everyone else. The air conditioning was turned on, the lights were turned on, and the CFO left. The 2 moaners went straight to the Big Boss and whined with their manager, and were told that nothing could be done for them except they had to find a different office if they didn't like it. They went on about their rights, and the Big Boss told them it was not up for discussion. The 2 guys who were responsible for H&S for the whole company had come in with the CFO, checked the lighting levels, and they were lower than I had thought. We were in serious non-compliance. So when I got called into the meeting with my boss, he was upset because he got shouted at by his boss that I had gone to the H&S committee and not gone through him. I reminded him that I had brought it up verbally and in an email, and he had emailed back that if I was unhappy I should move offices. Well, the Big Boss had thrown my boss and the boss of the 2 moaners under the bus and said he knew nothing of it. So now my boss was in trouble as the H&S office rep for allowing it to happen when he was supposed to check regulations before making decisions. While I got the lights and air conditioning back on, it was a small victory. I left 3 months later. The next one is an entitled parent's story. My partner, 30M, and I, 25F, started our relationship 5 years ago. When we met, I found out he shared a mortgage with his mother-in-law because when her ex left, she couldn't hold the mortgage. My boyfriend had a good job and decided to step up. We hadn't met yet, and he was single and living there, so he didn't think much of it. That was his mom, and he's a wonderful son in person. I moved in with him after 7 months. I know that's pretty soon, but there were some unforeseen events that led me to just stay. And that's when I started to realize there was something really off about mother-in-law. To give a visual of the house, it's a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms upstairs, and 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom downstairs. When I moved in, we lived in his bedroom upstairs. All downstairs was absolutely filled to the ceiling with junk and boxes, almost like an episode of Hoarders. Completely unlivable. There's also a laundry room down there, and that's where we all did our laundry. We were finally able to convince mother-in-law to get her stuff out of the way so we can move downstairs and have a bit more privacy. There's a door leading into the living area of the downstairs, and she would use that to get to the laundry. We spent most of our time in our living area and got tired of her constantly coming through it, so I tried to talk and make a compromise. There were 2 other ways to get to the laundry room. One way is down the outside stairs to the laundry room door, and the other is through the garage and through the hall. I went and bought some curtains to set up on either side of the doors, so she had her own special hallway. She kept coming through after agreeing to use the other ways. One day we replaced the doorknob with a knob that had a lock which locked from the inside. We had locked up and left the house for a few hours. When we got back, we found she had taken a butter knife and forced open the lock, something that could have easily been avoided. When we confronted her, she got on the floor and cried, and my boyfriend went over to comfort her. That's when I realized that she manipulates him. I only asked why she did that, and she broke down with crocodile tears. Eventually, I convinced my boyfriend to get away, and we moved into an apartment in town. It was bliss. I think from there, he started to gain a lot more confidence and stopped talking to his mother-in-law as much. This was all 4 years ago. After we moved out, mother-in-law decided to spend a bunch of money and renovate the downstairs, making the house into a duplex-type situation, with her living in the bottom. It's separate now, and she's not invading anyone's space. She charges a tenant $2,200 to live upstairs, which pays off almost her entire mortgage and covers all her bills. My boyfriend is still on the title and mortgage of the house. When he was there, he was paying for everything, including her phone bill. Another thing to add, mother-in-law does not work. So fast forward to now, I'm 2 months pregnant with my boyfriend's baby. We're starting a family, and my boyfriend is asked to move into the upstairs so we can have a bigger home to raise our baby in. However, she said no. We asked her to take his name off, but she refuses. She refuses to let him live in the house, buy him out, or take his name off because that would mean she can't keep the house. She cannot keep the house without my boyfriend. Her reasoning is that she wants to save for her retirement, and she needs the $4,000 plus a month she makes from the tenant, alimony, she wasn't even married to the guy, disability from the government, and other under-the-table work, while we are currently grasping at straws. My boyfriend has finally realized that his mother doesn't give any care about him or his child, and now we are going to take her to court. The house is worth almost $700K, and we are going to force a sale for half. Basically, she has proven time and time again that she's a selfish, greedy woman who takes advantage of her son. Her other son does not talk to her or see her even on holidays. We understand why now. I'm honestly still in shock at the fact that after everything he's done for her, she won't do the same. Also, she has a lot of money. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.